You are listening to Fantha Tracks.
It's time to spin round the rim. This is Desert Planet Discs. Star Wars music in a single file. Here are your hosts, Carl Bayless and Greg Robertson.
Ladies, gentlemen, and droids, welcome to this interview special, Desert Planet Discs, where we delve into the life and times of musicians who also have a love for all things Star Wars. Our guest today is a UK session drummer, demonstrator, and drum teacher who has worked with an impressive list of household names such as Souixsie Souix, Goldfrapp, Simple Minds, Miles Kane, former Strangler Hugh Cornwell and XTC alumni, Andy Partridge, and Colin Moulding.
He's also part of the UK clinic scene and a regular panellist on the weekly Palace Drum Chat Show, which is currently airing during lockdown every week, Saturday at 8 p.m. UK time. So, without further ado, let's welcome our guest, Rob Bryan. Hi, Rob.
How you doing? Nice to meet you both. It's good to be here.
Yes, as we touched on there, you've got a very impressive musical CV. But going right back, how did you get started on the drums?
Oh, we go back to 1979, 78, 79. My dad was a jazz drummer, and he tried to get me to play an instrument many moons ago, and I wasn't into it. Yeah, I guess what I was 77, so I was 8, 9, yeah. So I was just like getting to the top of the pops and watching those kind of bands, Blondie, Stranglers, The Police, and then eventually some character called Gary Newman came on, and it just kind of blew me away. Even though he obviously didn't play drums, it was just the music, the synths, everything about it. And of course, I had no idea that Bowie had done it a few years earlier because that was my moment. I saw that and I said, Dad, I want to play something. So we tried the keyboards. We went to Woolworths to put me an electronic keyboard, a guitar. None of that worked. And then he said, well, son, the only thing left that I can help you with a little bit is the drums. And he had a double bass drum kit. He'd retired from playing in 1970. But he kept this drum kit and said, I'm going to sell it. Do you want to play drums before I sell it? Because this is quite important. It's a big drum kit. You won't need any drums again for years. So I said, drums are not my thing. Of course, he sold it a few months later. I found his drumsticks in the garage and a Louis Belson drum method. And I was going through it, looking at these pictures, and of course, that was it. So I went to the house and I said, Dad, I want to play drums. And the air was blue. But also my mum, to be fair. So my dad was a big influence, but my mum, she sings in the bath. She used to sing around the house. And it was always Carpenters, Beatles, Beach Boys, always listening to Terry Wogan in the mornings. Whereas my dad was listening to, Weather Report, Miles Davis, Buddy Rich, Herbie Hancock, Average White Band, all the muso stuff, Deep Purple and all that stuff. So on one side, I had Dad playing this hardcore muso stuff, which I was loving. And on this other side, I had my mum who was playing all this, because literally Sunday morning, I could stand in our hallway. On the right-hand side, Mum was cooking Sunday lunch with all the middle-of-the-road stuff on the radio. Dad was rocking as loud as he could in his music room, all of this fusion stuff. So between those two things, I had a massive love for all things musical, actually. So that's why my CV sometimes has some contrasting names, because between the two of them, they just gave me so much knowledge in music and love for music. So I used to say it was just my dad, but it's not fair because my mum put so much into my early years without even knowing it, hearing those songs and those harmonies and those 2-3 minute perfect pop songs. And it's just like, whoa, okay. And of course, come, 30 years on, I'm in the studio, and people are telling me to try and reference those drum sounds and those drummers. Yeah. And you think, yeah, Mum was onto something. She might not have known. Not everybody wants a drum solo on their record, Yeah. Nobody wants that. So that's kind of how I started. So my dad taught me through those formative years. And at Corsham School, I played in the wind band and the concert band, as they called it. And in Corsham Town Band, I played in their brass band for a while. And then from there, it just, got a bit older, went to Bath and Bristol, joined the bands and left my cards in record shops as it was then and got the call. And, it was a different way of networking then, but that's how I got started. So it's kind of a family spun thing. It wasn't a teacher outside or anything, down to Gary Newman and my mum and my dad.
Cool.
So you can blame Gary for everything.
You mentioned Buddy Rich there. I believe that was one of the first couple of gigs you went to, Buddy Rich concerts.
It was at the Colston Hall, and my dad said, look, you're going to go and see this guy. And I think it was 1980 or something, and I was well into Newman, the Police and all that stuff, Blondie. And he sat me down and said, you're watching this Frank Sinatra concert. And I was like, oh man, these guys are so old. Like, why am I watching this stuff? So in the interval, a drummer's going to come out that's going to blow you away. And I was like, oh, it's not that old fella on the record covers you're showing me, that guy, what does he know? And he was like, okay, listen, just see what's out of my practice pad, like, impress me. he come out and did the West Side Story thing, and I was just like, oh my God, I was floored. Next day, I was straight to my dad's records, pulling them all out, and what an influence. And he said, son, I've got 2 tickets at the Colston Hall for you to go and see Buddy Rich. And I nearly wet myself. It was the most incredible. I was 14 years of age, 1984, and in 86 we went again 2 years later. And it was, I mean, I've got so many drummers on my list that I love, obviously, but there's something about an iconic character like that. Just seeing any musician just being in the same room as them without them even touching an instrument is incredible. You know, I've had that with many artists that I've seen through the years. And then they do what they're supposed to be doing as well. And you know, I'm having out-of-body experience here. And I remember I was at the end of West Side Story, the solo, I was going to stand up. And I was so shy, but I was one of the first people to stand up because I literally was almost weeping. And it was a hell of an experience. If I shut my eyes, I can still imagine and still remember the sound of that drum kit and just the air it was shifting. It was just one.
Big favourite of mine as well. I never got to see him, but you watch the videos and even just listening to some of the stuff. Krupa and Rich, is it Drum Battle? I can't think what the album's called now.
Philharmonic,
Yeah, just the 2 of them, and you're just like, ah. And I always remember years ago somebody going to, so which camp are you in? Are you Buddy Rich or Gene Krupa? And I'm like,
here we go.
oh, I've never really thought about it like that. And then I'd sort of sponge things in, as you say. You just absorb music that's going on around you. You
know, without Krupa, you wouldn't have got Rich, and that's the thing. I think it's only people that, but no one sat on bar stools these days. But it's the sort of people who sit on the bar stool, and it's like, who's better, Michael Jackson or Prince? Blur or Oasis? Rolling Stones or G. Krupa, Buddy. And the thing is, it's just a fallacy. The whole thing is just ridiculous. You know, because you can't live like that. That sort of my team's better than your team thing is just something that I never understood it then, and I don't understand it now. I used to find it really difficult when people at school used to rib you for certain things, and I really struggled with it. Maybe it was an OCD thing, I don't know, but you know, I'm very glad that I've got that because it's really made me, like I said earlier about mum and dad's music, it's made me so open to lots of different things that you know, some days I will be the Stones, some days I'll be the Beatles, some days I'll be, well, maybe not Michael Jackson, but I'll be Prince, more Michael Jackson, or Blur and Oasis. I listen to both. You know, I mean, that's just there's a Prince category there some way.
Yeah, no later on, love it.
And he's another person I saw live umpteen times from 1988. Love Sexy. I was 18, and I took a girl that I was seeing at the time to impress her, and she wasn't that impressed actually. I was blown away, and I remember going. It was the days when you used to buy a ticket and go up on a coach. I got a ticket from Rival Records in Bath, you know, which is long gone now. It was in the corridor. And I went up and, you know, I was thinking I was going to impress. I had my white jacket on. You know, it was the 80s, a white jacket. That was ridiculous, wasn't it? I put it on the floor. I picked it up. It was filthy by the time I got out of the Wembley Arena. But we went up on the coach, and I just remember driving away thinking everything shifted. 360 for me. I've not seen anything like that. So every year I went to see him after that, but quite incredible. Krupa or Rich, both, isn't it? You can't have one without the other. And that's why I tell all my students and when I do clinics, you know, try not to say this is better than the other. Just open up to everything. Because again, I'm very liberal like that because in the studio, when you're working with an artist, you cannot suddenly come across if they say, oh, could you play like Ringo? And you think, oh, he's the worst drummer. I don't want to play. You know, it's like, why are you in this building of creativity? Why are you in this building with me? Like, what are you doing here? Go home and put on your Rolling Stone record then, or whatever you think's better. It's just ridiculous, you know. I'm really not into that at all.
So obviously the country and most of the world, in fact, in the various states of lockdown, musicians are obviously been fairly heftily affected. What have you been up to fill your time and keep working?
Well, I've been parenting. I think we can all feel the pain. I've only got
homeschooling.
That's it. Homeschooling and you know, policing the whole activity. I've been doing that, and a lot of sitting here on my laptop with my little boy Fox here with his table with his Star Wars. I don't know why he's into Star Wars. How could that be? But with his Star Wars books, and we do a little bit of spelling because every now and again my wife comes and says he's not doing enough learning. He needs to do a bit more. You know, when he goes to school. Like, okay, so I look down at him and go, Sebulba. What does Sebulba begin with? And he's like, S. I'm like, yes, he's learning. Han Solo. What's Han Solo begin with? H, Daddy. Yeah. There's a bit of that. There's a lot of online teaching, and as I said, some people just write and say, "Can we have a chat?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, okay. There's no charge in this. I'll just talk to you for an hour or 2 hours," and it usually goes on longer. But that's good. Just sharing information, stuff like this as well, which is brilliant. And there's a load of bad things going on with the lockdown, obviously, but there's been some real positive things where people are connecting. Because I wouldn't have met you guys. The PDC drum chat you mentioned, that wouldn't have been off. Because remember, me and Matt, who hosts that, we were sat doing this one night having a beer, and he said it to me, and I said, well, what's stopping us doing it, Matt? What's stopping us? And he went, oh yeah, good point. I said, let's just do it. Don't talk about it. So there's all these great things that are happening, but it is extremely stressful. So I'm trying to keep up my networking. I'm doing some remote sessions. That's just started recently, actually. So there's that, which obviously we'll talk about later, I guess. But there's that going on. So some artists I'm working with, they're happy me doing that. And that's all we're going to get for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
I'm not spending enough time on the practice kit myself upstairs, which I may have mentioned earlier. It's just not happening because my wife works 9 till 5. Fox's room has become my new drum room, It's difficult, In one respect, I'd like to say I'm on the kit working constantly, but most I'm emailing about work, how's things, checking up with people, everything's all right, talking to management of people that I'm working with, anything going on, how we all doing, and that kind of thing. Just spinning plates, really, keeping it all going. But it's amazing, over the last 3 days, I've got people messaging me, oh, you mentioned a remote, you do remotes? I'm like, yeah, I do remotes. Are you starting soon? I'm like, yeah, because I can't do it in the house. So I've got to go to a studio. Yeah, that's fine. And things are starting to happen. So, and again, I never would have worked with some of these people if it wasn't for this dreadful lockdown. So I know it's not what's positive for everybody. So everyone's got their story to tell, and I know it can be hell. And I've struggled with it. It's been really hard. I'm sat here thinking, not only what is the world coming to with other things that are going on, of course, in the moment, but then you got to deal with the little one, and then it's just it's very difficult. So I'm trying to be really good to myself. I'm not, when I go to bed at night, I don't go, you didn't practice, you didn't do this. It's a different world at the moment, and I think we've all got to be mindful of that and not be too heavy on ourselves. And it's hard though.
You mentioned again there the Palace Drum Chat Show, which I've been tuning into. There's been some, as you mentioned, Ian Palmer amongst.
When we had the other week.
Yeah.
Yes. What a drum room he had.
Oh no! yes. The chats were probably still up on Facebook. If you're a drummer and you haven't seen any of these, check out the Todd Zuckerman Palace Drum Show. He's broadcasting from his drum room, and there must have been over 100 snares in really neatly organised shelving.
It was like a drum shop, basically.
Yeah.
I'm sat here going, what? He's like, I know what they all do. I know what they all sound like. They've all got names, I know what they all do.
Yeah.
Like, my God, I bet you don't. There's too many. But
I just found myself trying to look down the row and go, what has he actually got there?
That's what I was sort of looking at the side and thinking, that's a Rogers. That's got to be a 1960s Rogers. Cherry swirl, or whatever you call that, like the Ringo colour, but cherry. Pink swirl. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, no, they are good fun. And as I say, Matt just said, should we do it? And I was like, come on, Matt. And literally, Matt Green is amazing. A week later, he was like, right, we've got our first one. We're rocking with Tom Bradley from Roland. And I was like, great, off we go. And we might be getting some bigger names that I can't say, who are also clearly, obviously, in lockdown. But they're like, I'm up for a chat. Why not? Sit there with a G&T like Todd and a good time.
So the chat show gets its name from the Palace Theatre in Redditch, which isn't too far from me, actually.
Okay, yeah.
So, yes, I only found out about it probably the start of the year. Around Christmas, I think I was in one of the drum shops in Birmingham.
Right.
And I just happened to pick up a flyer and sort of, that sounds interesting. Oh, Redditch, yeah. In fact, I've played the Palace Theatre.
Fantastic. Was it a panto? Or
No. It was a tribute band.
Oh no, it wasn't.
Oh yes, it was. Yes.
Sorry.
I was.
Where's the drummer? He's behind you.
Yes. Yes. No, it's one of the most stressful loadings I've ever had because it's sort of like one way, and you sort of park up sort of 100 yards down this little hill and load all the gear in. It was a baking hot day as well, I remember. But so it was on my radar of things I need to start trying to get to, and then of course we all got locked in. So hopefully, when things start returning to something like normal, I shall be taking one in.
Because Matt and Gary Alcock run a tight ship there, and they get some great people. I've done it twice now, and I love it. Every time I go up there, there's a curry house around the corner we go to, and it's brilliant. Love it.
Yeah, and
the drumming community rocks.
Yeah.
Together.
And it's just over the road from the John Bonham Memorial.
It is, we had our drum camp back in February before this, as we say, lockdown. And we had, 20 people come to that drum camp for the weekend, and me, Pete Cater, Ian Palmer, and myself, and Matthew, sorry. And it was wonderful. And we went out for this huge curry, and we had this picture taken next to it, and it was in Rhythm magazine or online Rhythm now, whatever it is, last month, I think. But it was wonderful. I was flicking through my photos the other day on my phone, and I found it. Just thought, wonderful.
Yeah.
At the shrine, one of the finest drummers,
So, do you think the online variant of the show will continue beyond the lockdown period?
Well,
maybe not as regularly, obviously, but...
Well, we did discuss it, because after hours is where the fun starts. Because when we go, right, and we finish, click, then...
then you get all the juicy stories.
The really juicy stuff comes out. And, did you know? And what did he do? And all that. Yeah, we have talked about it. And obviously, like you say, Saturday is a gigging night for most people. So, most drummers won't be watching anywhere. They'll be out, or even we won't be around. There'll just be an empty screen. So, yeah, maybe once a month or something. Matt is thinking about keeping something going because, again, something good's come out of this and wasn't ideal, but now we've got this little thing. And, of course, with Todd, we had about 4,000 because of his fame and stuff. We had about 4. And now that's gone up, of course, because of replaying and stuff. So then other people see that one and go, oh, what's this other fella? Ian Palmer. Who's that? If they don't know Ian, and it starts to build, doesn't it? Like this, I guess you guys know. Yeah. It just escalates, and every now and again you'll get a really big name and it'll go woof, and some of those people do return. So yeah, hopefully maybe once a month. Who knows? But yes, the answer is basically yes. Something will happen.
Cool. So we've already touched on you using Star Wars to educate the next generation. Yeah. So, what are your earliest memories of Star Wars?
Oh man, I used to love watching the adverts between Tiz was, and the adverts used to come on. And man, I used to sit and I used to be ready, waiting for that American voice to come on. Star Wars, look at Luke Skywalker, saving the universe, and all that, and these kids, like these weird kids with basin haircuts, like mine at the time, these Star Wars toys, and I just remember the fuss being made about it, and I remember going to the cinema in Chippenham with my mum. So 78? So I'd have been 8. Yeah, 78. So I would have gone along to watch it, ready to be blown away, and slightly scared as well. And I just remember coming out, and it was just, it's a life-changing experience, like the Buddy Rich thing. You come out and you're like, you've seen Star Trek on TV, which I loved, obviously, the Shatner things. I loved all that. Seeing the black hole, which I think, was that before or afterwards? I can't remember. But anyway, around that time. But this was, and I'd seen Flash Gordon because it was on before Multicoloured Swap Shop. They used to show Buster Crabbe.
Yes.
And I remember watching the beginning. I know this is all Star Wars fans, this isn't a big revelation, but the words coming up at the beginning, and it was just like, oh my God, the prologue or whatever. It was just like, oh my goodness. And I remember seeing it and thinking, it's the same as that thing I was watching, that black and white thing, man.
Yeah.
Buster Crabbe,
Yeah.
And, it was just a few things, and then the ships were a little bit like Star Trek, but just a lot better. And I just remember the adverts, dying to want to go and see it, and then coming out. And we may have even got a program or something. I can't remember. Many years ago, but that was the moment, and my life changed dramatically after that. I don't think there's anyone of my generation that's into it that would, because I'm 50 this year, and I don't think anyone would say any different who'd seen it. That's into sci-fi. George Lucas, genius.
Yes.
I saw a documentary the other day, and they said the world would never be the same again, and people go, "Oh, shut up!" But it's true.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have got so many things and there's so many things that come before it, I know, that influenced him. Clearly, like we were saying about the drummer thing, there's no better, but then you get something where you just can't look past it. You have to say, that is a point. It's like Sgt. Pepper or something, like them or not, it's a point in music where you have to go, yeah. Dark Side of the Moon is another one. I'm using older references, obviously, because I'm older. But see those points, and the conversation of better or best, good or bad, doesn't come into it. You have to go, yeah, it's kind of a milestone. Yeah, I see what you mean. You don't have to like it, but you clearly have to see that it's a milestone.
Yeah, you acknowledge it. You acknowledge its importance, even if you don't fully buy into what it's about.
Exactly, and that's the same with art, fashion, anything.
Yeah.
That's kind of it. So, yeah, but those adverts, I was saying to my wife the other day, because I knew obviously this had been planned a while, and it's funny, I found a few on YouTube the other day, and I showed my little boy, and of course there was nowhere near as exciting, obviously, on. But, you know, just watching them, I still remember the sort of hairs on the back of my neck, and every advert break, I'd be watching for the next one. Oh, nothing on that one. Next one, yeah, it's there again. Oh, and then the anticipation at Christmas to open up your first land speeder or something. Just incredible. Yeah. That land speeder, I wish I still had it, of course. We say that on this show, right?
Oh, yes.
Obviously, a tenner reissue. If I had some of the Palitoy stuff, I mean, God. Jeez. Anyway, yeah.
Are you up to date with all the latest Star Wars films? And have you watched the Disney Plus content, The Mandalorian, Clone Wars, Rebels? And
I love it. Absolutely love it. Yes. Because I didn't want to get Disney Plus, but then I just had to. They bullied us into it, didn't they? They just were like, "Go on, you've got to take it. You've got to take it." And it's like, and all the other content of Star Wars, it's all going to be on there. And I thought, yeah, okay, my boy will like that as well. So yeah, all right then. And actually, I didn't have to bribe my wife. She was actually totally on board. So she said, "You should get it." And that night, I binged virtually all of them. I mean, no, I think it was 5 at the time, or 6. Or maybe it's just 4 episodes. But I binged them all. So I thought, is this it? And then I didn't realise they were putting them on like weekly or fortnightly or something. And then that excitement was great. It was like the old days when I used to sort of wait for the X-Files to come on. I used to love it. Yeah. You know, now when they say there's the whole lot, watch it in one go. I do like that, but it's a bit like, I want to wait.
Yeah.
I like the waiting, anticipation of.
I want to create my own storylines in my head for the next 7 days. You know, what's going to happen with that, rather than it being the length of the time it takes you to go to the loo and make a cup of tea.
Exactly.
Get another beer.
I miss that with things these days when they say it's all on Netflix now. Go watch it. Go. Anyway, but it's good that it's out there anyway. It's not like we had to wait years till America had it, then we had it. But so there's, again, pros and cons. But yeah, no, I love it. Absolutely love it. I've watched everything, basically, which I guess we could talk about in a minute. But most of the questions coming about that. Whether I've enjoyed all of it is another matter. But, you know, it's all part of the Star Wars universe, and I think that's the way we have to look at it. Because someone just coming in, watching Mandalorian, might go, what's all that old stuff, Star Wars? I'm aware of it, but I like this. There's a good feel about this. Then they might say, right, what was the last Star Wars film? Rise of Skywalker, let's watch that. Oh, I like this. Go back again. And they might go back, and then that could be the way in. Everyone deserves a way in, so.
On the topic of Rise of Skywalker, what were your thoughts about how they wrapped up the Skywalker saga with that movie?
Thing is, I've never been satisfied with the prequels or the last 3, but I've enjoyed them. Yeah. And again, I've talked to friends who they've gone, no, you can't enjoy them because they're basically recreating the first 3 again. It's like, yes, I know. There's like, yeah, but come on. So there's a part of me that says yes for entertainment and part of the Star Wars universe. I got lost in it, and the second time I watched them was even better than the first, which actually blew me away. So I said, look, to Helen, we must sit down and watch Last Jedi, and she's seen all the last 3 now, and Rise of Skywalker, and she was like, I don't know. And I sat there, and I was just absolutely glued. So there's something that's still, working for me, that's absolutely, totally pulling me in. But yeah, I guess everyone would want a slightly different end to a story, or to see something different. It's a very selfish thing, isn't it, when you love something like Star Wars, because everyone's got their own take on what they think it should be, and it's all valid. I guess there's about 6 outcomes I probably would have liked, and none of them were probably very watchable. That's the thing, again, I like the divide. I like the divide that it can clear that, the room can divide over it, maybe into about 10 different little pockets of people that like it. As entertainment, I loved it. If I sat down and really thought about it, I don't think the 3 of them quite what I would have wanted. As I say, there's probably loads of different outcomes there as well. So we'd all be sat there going, oh yeah, but then that could have, oh yeah. So they've done a good job. But I think The Mandalorian is the way forward. That way they are producing at the moment. And people said it looks a bit lo-fi at times. They clearly run out of money at times. Not run out of money, but some look more high budget than others. I don't care about that, because look at the first Star Wars film. They did it on. They did get more money, but the budget they had, it looks absolutely incredible still, and I get a real buzz from watching that film. So I think if Disney can run with this idea of these like sub stories. Like I'd love to see a Darth Vader story. I'm sure you're going to ask me at some point about what I'd like to see. I'd love to see a Darth Vader. There's a massive bit that we don't know about. Like, God, he's badass, man. We should be known what happened in that interim period. It's really important. So yeah, movies, fun, enjoyable, but I don't think I'd ever be satisfied with an outcome. I don't know about you guys. What did you think? Did you think it tied it up nicely, or was there bits missing, or it was too kind of like, yeah?
It was missing a Yub-Nub reprise at the end of Rise of Skywalker. They should have, they kind of got rid of that in the special edition. They should have brought that back and had a big... Yeah. We had 2 Ewoks at the end, so that was good, but they could have done with the whole tribe there. Yeah, banging on, Yub-Nub, Yub-Nub.
Yeah, what was that about? Just 2? It was, what's his name, and his son, wasn't it? Because I saw...
Warwick and his son, yeah. Harrison, in fact.
That was nice, but yeah, 2 Ewoks, like, what?
Yeah. For me, it wrapped things up, but like you say, there's so many different directions they could have gone in, and there's a lot of things that, for me, the whole of the Rise of Skywalker just felt a bit rushed. There's lots of talk that there's 3.5, 4 hour edit of it, and they wanted to put it out as 2 films and all these sort of things. So when you watch it as there's some of the moments, I know Greg and I have discussed before, there's bits of the film where you kind of think, they've really skipped over that rather quickly. Yeah. Like, a spoiler alert, the bit where Chewie is on a transport that explodes, or is he? And it's a bit like, oh, Chewie's dead. Right, come on, let's get on the ship and go. And you're like, hang on, you've just wiped out, or for story purposes, you've just potentially wiped out a character that's been in it from prequel era. Because they introduced him, and it's like, yeah, 10 minutes ago you were all talking about what great friends you are and how you're inseparable on these missions, and then you've kind of going on, oh well, he's dead, off we go, yeah. But don't you find as well that, again, this is like a very broad subject, but don't you find that movies these days anyway, generally, because we know we're told that people have to have everything straight away, come on, no time for a build-up, you just got to see a character, boom, 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 face value, off you go. That kind of movie making and that kind of TV series kind of way of directing and feeding the people, I find extremely patronising and dull. It's an age thing, I know, but, I sometimes ask younger people, I don't want to say younger people, but some people who say, oh, no, I quite like it, let's get into it. I say, right, sit down and watch Alien. Just sit and watch Alien. Yeah.
Right, so if I'm with them, it's brilliant. So I'll sit them and I go, no one's died yet. But are you into it? Yeah, like really into it. It's slow though, isn't it? But it's really good.
Yeah.
That way of making movies is kind of, I know, because as we know why it is. They want something within the first 5-10 minutes to go, whoa, that sort of shock tactic way of dragging people in is good. But storytelling and character development is kind of lost. And I think you had that a bit more in Star Wars, in the earlier films. Now, I know it wasn't a massive drawn-out biblical affair, but there was some way you could kind of get into the characters a bit more, whereas these modern ones, like you say, they are very quick, fly, action, boom, boom, boom. As I say, I found it highly enjoyable. But when you sit back and you start to stroke your chin about it, you think, yeah, it is a little bit, that moment especially, Chewie's just gone. And I remember watching it and I was a bit like, I don't mind admitting I was a bit teary at the time. Yeah. But yeah, it was like, right, off we go, boom, 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 boom. Right, yeah, I've got no time to deal with my emotions right now.
Yeah, that's it.
So, yeah. I guess that's a result of modern movie making and the way things have to be. But it's a shame, isn't it? Yeah. And as I say, on a sidestep, I do miss that way of drawing things out. Like I'm in the house, the calls coming from within the house. That thing is brilliant.
Yeah.
That was a groundbreaking moment that the hair still rises on the back of my neck, and I've seen it so many times. Scream, right? I mean, it's amazing, right? But it seemed to be, right, that's how it has to be. We have to do that. We have to get the throat ripped out within 5 minutes. And it's such a shame because that slow build makes for incredible viewing. But
better payoff further down.
Build the tension.
But is it an age thing, gentlemen? Is it an age thing? Because I don't want it to be. Is it? Because I don't know.
Who knows?
Who knows? I mean, making music, it's funny because I work with artists that record stuff, and a lot of the time management will be like, that's a very long intro. And they're like, yeah, but we can edit it. It's fine. Let's just record it as it is. Yeah, but it's 6 minutes long. Yeah, but that's fine. So I'm privy to some of these conversations, and it's like, yeah, we can edit it down. It'll be fine. And then you suddenly hear the watered down single compared to the album release or something, and you think, I don't like that.
Yeah.
It's almost like bye. Yeah. There's no time. to something, and it's so the music industry suffers in the same way as the movie industry in a way.
Yeah. Don't bore us. Get to the chorus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Intro. We don't want an intro.
Yeah.
4 bars. That'll do. That's a bloody intro. Get on with it.
In terms of the movies, what would you say is your favourite film and your favourite character from Star Wars?
It's always been Empire Strikes Back. There was a period of time when that was quite a radical choice, but now it seems to be everybody's choice.
Yeah.
And my favourite character, which is Boba Fett, but now it seems to be everybody's favourite character. At a certain time, since I'm 50, where you'd say that and people would go, really? He's hardly in it. Why is he interesting? It's like, well, that's why. He's just this cool character with a badass ship that comes in and then disappears again. You want to find out more about that character, which you never, well, you kind of do, obviously, but... So yeah, but if I'm going to be, as I said, that was a radical choice then, but as a kid, leaving the cinema back in 1978 or whatever, it was Han Solo. Yeah. I thought he was killer. I mean, he had this ship, which has been wrecked by my boy. Bits are missing. Everything's missing, actually. But yeah, Han Solo, the Millennium Falcon. He had he had Chewie. It sounded like everything he said was the same, but it was different conversation. It was wonderful. I just thought, this guy is so hip. And he was saying things like kid, hey kid, and he just seemed so, well, like a space cowboy, kind of obvious, kind of where they were relating that to. And I loved it, and I loved his gun. I got his blaster that Christmas, which again, I wish I had. But I had his blaster with a sight thing on it and everything. It was wicked. So Boba Fett, but then I guess Han Solo, it's like a toss-up. But now everyone says Boba Fett, as I say, so I'm going to go with Han Solo then now. But there are so many other little sub-characters as well that you see, because I watch them a lot, obviously, with my boy now. And there's so many other characters that are in there, and you just think, oh, yeah, he or she's really cool as well. You know what I mean? There's you can get lost down the rabbit hole, which is the reason we love it.
The beauty of Star Wars, yeah. Absolutely.
Full On, for instance. I want to know what that guy's about.
Yeah.
Tell me more about what I mean. It's endless. Which is, as I say, another reason why I love it. Because a different day, you see a different thing within the film. And I mean, I don't know about you guys, but when the VHS came out, I mean, it's very expensive, like 30 odd quid back in the day to buy it. But I got it one Christmas, and I just wore the thing out.
Yeah.
And when it first aired on TV, this seems a bit sad, but I don't think it is. I think it's quite sweet. I actually took my tape recorder and I put it up against the speaker on my parents' TV on a TDK 180 or something, or 160. Press record, because it was on ITV for the first time.
That's a cassette tape for you younger people.
Sorry. Yeah, it's like a tape machine, those things that go round. It's like things that appear on Facebook with a pen through it saying, what's the pen for?
Yeah.
You go, it's to spool it back, yeah, but no one else. And I recorded it, and when the adverts come on, I paused it, and then I released it again. And I listened to the audio, just a film on tape, direct from the TV for years. And I had that tape for, do you know what? I think I've actually probably got it upstairs. I would have, because my 9-year-old writing would have been scrawled all over it, Star Wars, in blue and red biro. But I think I've still got it upstairs. And I wore that out as well. Absolutely loved it. And when my dad first taught me to play brushes, this is a bit of a sidestep, but when he taught me to play brushes, jazz brushes, when they went into the cantina, I used to keep playing over that bit.
Oh, yes.
All my brush chops and my swing, because then the dialogue would come in. It'd be like, oh, and then oh, there was only a little window of opportunity. Yeah. I'm not lying. What I used to do, I haven't got any. I've got some vinyl somewhere, but I used to have the vinyl with the plastic cover on, so I wouldn't damage the sleeve. And I used to sit with my brushes and play on top of that when parents were watching TV, drive them crazy. But at least it wasn't like a drum; it was just.
Yeah. And
the cantina scene, man, I used to play for ages just playing along to that. I used to love it, and I used to practice all my rudiments watching the rest of the film. So I'd be sat there, and it'd be like I'd start Sunday morning, and it would be like the big start, 20th Century Fox, and I'd be rolling and playing about. Then the film was like, and I'd be playing around, and I just play till the end of the movie on the VHS. I just play all the way through it, tapping my rudiments, watching it. It's just brilliant. I loved it. Sometimes playing along with the John Williams score, thinking, what's that? What's going on there?
Yeah.
At 9, 10 years of age, it's brilliant. It's kind of, let's say, it's not sad really. It's quite sweet, isn't it? But I never get those days back, and they meant a lot to me. But a lot of time soaking myself into the universe, not just like mentally, but also musically. getting into the whole thing. It's brilliant.
Picking up on that, have you seen any of the recent theatre arena type tours where they've done an orchestra playing live with the film broadcast?
I feel guilty because Helen was trying to make me go to. She mentioned we should go to the Forum in Bath to watch an orchestra play the music to Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was busy working and stuff. And I was, do you know what? Yes, on one hand, but the thought of having a night off and going to watch another piece of music where I've got a night off.
Yeah.
Now, my goodness, I would pull my own arms off to get out and do it. You know, if we had any forethought of what was happening or any knowledge, no one did. But I would like to go and see one. But yeah, I clearly had the chance, and I did turn it down, which, as I say, I feel terrible.
Yeah, we've done a few guys from the website done New Hope and Empire, and I think they're doing Jedi, or it was scheduled to be done towards the end of the year, but obviously all a bit up in the air. But just before Christmas last year, CBSO, Birmingham Symphony Orchestra, did music from the whole suite of films, so 1 to 8 at that point, but without a screen, and that was just mind-blowing. Because the thing I found watching the big screen presentation is you kind of get lost and sort of drift away and start watching the film again.
Yeah, that's it.
And there's this music going on, and then you go, "Oh, this is a live orchestra," and it's only because the mix of the music is slightly different to what you're used to hearing. You kind of wait a minute, there's an orchestra playing here. I should be appreciating that, and then you drift back to the film. But this, obviously, the focus was the music, and they did Duel of Fates from Phantom Menace, which is awesome piece of music, but obviously quite choral vocal heavy. But to hear that without the choral element, just the music that's going on underneath, you kind of go, it isn't just the big choral bits that make that. There is so much, bit like an onion. You can sort of peel away those vocal layers, and there's still loads of stuff going on underneath it. So that was a real treat. And I mean, it was at the Symphony Hall in Birmingham, which I don't know if you've played. Yeah. And as a music room, it is just out of this world.
And the thing is, the music of John Williams, to Star Wars fans, I know it's legendary, but the music is incredible, isn't it? It is absolutely incredible. You know, people obviously say where he took ideas from, and we know that. We don't need to go over that again, and that's fine. But hey, who doesn't borrow an idea or two? But look what he does with it, and the way he scores it. And the thing I found really powerful in The Rise of Skywalker was when he brought out his X-Wing, and it was the actual score that was the same in Empire when Yoda brought out his X-Wing. And then I saw the actual extra features, because I was watching it, and I watched it on my own. Again, it was a teary moment. I was like, oh my God. And I watched the extra features afterwards, and John Williams said, I had to find it. We have to get it. I want the very same piece of music. It's a similar moment happening again.
Yeah.
So John Williams said, I had to find it. So I had to dig out the actual... And his music is, in many films, extraordinary. But in the Star Wars, I was going to say original trilogy, incredible. But now look at it. He's had to span it, you know?
Yeah.
6 films. It's like, my goodness, how does this man and still be original and still make the hairs on the back of your neck stand up? Because it wouldn't be the same without him. And I know George will do that, and it wouldn't be. It really, I mean, there's some great people out there scoring, Hans Zimmer and other people out there doing great soundtracks, don't get me wrong. Elfman and people, they're just genius. But there's something about John Williams, something he brings to the table that just floors you every time. No matter what film you see, it's just like, genius.
Yeah.
How do you do it? And how do you can, so consistently on the button?
Yeah.
That's why he's John Williams.
Indeed.
Obviously, you toured all over the world playing gigs and also recording. Have you ever come across any Star Wars cast or crew members on your travels? Or have you been to any conventions and met them in person? Or
I've never done that. It's something that it's kind of on my list of things to do. I don't know about you guys, but I mean, my inner, I don't want to say this, but my inner geek, if you like, I hate saying that though, but the inner fandom, though I have bits and they're around, there's some cases that never actually came from when I moved, that never actually came down into the house anyway. I'm really proud of that stuff and I love it. And I would love to rock up. Don't think I can do the whole cosplay thing, but I'd love to rock up at a convention and do it and just live it and stand at the bar and just totally immerse myself in that world for a weekend. I don't. For years, it was almost like, that's really uncool. I shouldn't do that. But the older I get, it's like, oh, why am I denying myself? Like, an obvious. And it's funny because about 10 years ago, a friend of mine said we should go to a Gary Newman convention, right? Which is a bit weird, right? Well, it's Gary Newman Disco. And I know they do it for all sort of artists. It's quite a popular thing. And I went along and there's all people dressed up. I just went in jeans and normal stuff. But I remember it was Newman music all night and people talking about it. People had records with them and stuff. And it was a bit like, I mean, no one was going to be there, but it was just a night of his music. And I was like, I'm getting into this. And I started dancing. And I started to do a move from one of the videos. And this guy ran up to me and he stopped and he said, you're doing that bit in the We Are Glass video when with the metal bar and he smashes the TV, aren't you? That's what you're doing. And I was like, yeah. But then part of me, it was like, I'm home. I'm home. These people get me. So the answer is no, but I need to and I want to. I dearly want to. I mean, I've worked with musicians that have met people like Harrison Ford and John Williams and stuff, but unfortunately, I've never had the chance to do all these things firsthand. My second cousin, though, works on the films in London. He's worked on a lot of them and obviously can't tell us anything, so I've sworn to secrecy. But afterwards, he's like, oh, yeah, I worked on that, and this is what I did, and this is the code name for so-and-so on that film. And it's like, oh, my God. And, of course, my son, we have a family chat on Zoom, and my little fox is like, when Alex says, oh, I've met Darth Vader, and I've been on the Falcon, and he's like, what? So I have a family member who is actually working on the film, so she's quite close. But me personally, I haven't immersed myself, one, into the convention world, but I plan to, or two, had the chance to work with anyone or bump into anyone firsthand that is from the Star Wars universe. Because again, I'd be useless. Clearly, I can't even talk to Gary Newman. So I couldn't go up to Harrison Ford or anyone. And I've heard he's pretty miserable. But I know there's mixed stories on that. But the musicians I know that have come across him said he was pretty miserable. But anyway, whatever. Who cares? It's Harrison Ford. He did some of my favourite films, like Blade Runner for a start, and also Star Wars. The man could, and Raiders of the Lost Ark, only the first. He could do no wrong for me.
Yeah. You've mentioned bits and pieces you found in your collection as well, like the Han Solo blast from your kid, the Millennium Falcon. Is there one collectible or prop you'd love to own from the original movie, well, from any of the Star Wars movies or shows?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. I'd love to have gone on the Millennium Falcon. I think my fixation with that ship, that and the USS Enterprise, though obviously we're crossing the streams here, we should talk about Star Trek, but those two ships are they're everything to me. So to have something from that ship would have been fantastic. Anything would have done. Any little bit of prop would have been wonderful to have from that ship. So Blaster, I have
gold dice. The little gold dice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's just like to have it and to hold it would just be something else. That someone else would say it's a bit of plastic, it's a bit of wood, it's this. But to me, to a fan, it's it's everything, isn't it? So I think something from the Millennium Falcon would have been, I would have wigged out, and I would now. Especially this from the one from Empire, The one now, yeah, maybe it'd still be cool, but I think if it's the original, set that they built, that would have been untold.
Yeah, the stories you hear from people who were on the crew about that time, and it's like, oh yeah, half of that ended up in a skip.
Yeah, that's right.
What?
Absolutely. Wales or something. It's a weird story about how it got there. And you just think, really? And then it's but we destroyed some of it, and it wasn't really worried about. Oh man, it's like, really? But yeah, something off the Falcon would have been lovely.
I think we got the answer to this earlier on. You mentioned one of the questions we were going to ask you was about what Star Wars story you would like to see in the vein of like Rogue One and Solo.
Yeah, Vader, definitely.
Vader.
Yeah, man. I'd love to see more of this character because there's a whole bit missing, as far as I can tell.
Yeah,
we need to know.
Yeah, they've explored some of the eras within the comics and things like that, but
right.
Yeah, I think it is one of the things that a lot of people would like to see, a bit more.
Especially after that Rogue One corridor scene at the end.
Yes.
Absolutely.
It's like, oh, unhinged theater.
Yeah.
The possibilities, yeah. I mean, what did you think of Rogue One, by the way? Because we've not sort of touched or mentioned.
Love it.
I thought it was like, come on, this is the way forward. This is, me too. Doing some good things.
Yeah, we met Gareth Edwards a couple of years back, and again, a little bit younger than us, but just totally steeped in Star Wars.
Yeah.
And you can tell Star Wars is why he wanted to be a filmmaker. That's what got him into making films and stuff. And that love just comes through it.
It does.
It's really funny. The interview we did. It's on an old podcast, folks. I think it might even be episode 1 of Making Tracks.
I think you're right. I think it is making episode 1
Yeah.
of Tracks.
But we were talking to him about, he's like Office at Lucasfilm. He loves the Ewok movies, the TV movies they made.
Yeah.
And he'd got a big Caravan of Courage poster up on his office wall. And he got this phone call from reception going, you've got a visitor coming through. And he's going, oh, right, okay, who is it? They went, it's Mr. Lucas. And he's like, oh my God. He's like trying to cover up all this stuff. And he said it's one of those things where he's sort of like trying to hold the door and stand in front of this poster in case George thinks it's like taking the mickey out of Caravan of Courage. He said, but I absolutely love Caravan of Courage.
That is cool.
So yes, that was quite funny. But yeah, I absolutely love Rogue One.
It was brilliant.
Alongside the Holy Trinity.
What do you think of Solo then? How was that?
Really enjoyed Solo as well, though. That was a little bit more Indiana Jones kind of vibe.
Yeah.
And again, going back to that Buster Crab adventure serial, the Saturday morning type adventure thing, little scrapes and skirmishes and is he going to get out of this one? Oh yes, he gets out of this one. Is he going to get out of the next one?
Yeah, it was great viewing on a plane. I saw it on a plane, and it was great viewing. We were on our way to Canada on tour, and I remember watching it, and I just totally loved it. I need to watch it again now here, and just think when I'm grounded, literally, and think, let's just watch it. Yeah, boom, boom. But let's just see what. But I did enjoy it, but it did seem a bit like shoot 'em up.
Yeah.
A bit like that, yeah. But that also lives in, as we said, the original films. Well, New Hope especially. There's a little bit that sort of cowboy element in there, and it refined itself very quickly actually through the rest of the films. But they kind of curtailed that a little bit, which was good, I think.
So, what's next for you professionally? What are you up to?
I'm supposed to be continuing. I'm working with an artist called Lorena McKinnett, who's sort of it's kind of folk, new world, new age music. And we did an album at Real World, which is Peter Gabriel's place, which is 10 minutes from my front door.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah, it's perfect. I get a lot of sessions, a lot of ins that way. And I did the album with them and ended up doing the world tour. And we started 2 years ago. And we were going to have this year off anyway, because she didn't want to be touring the year that Trump won the election and stuff. Little did we know, again, what was about to happen in many places in the world. So this year I was always having off. And then next year we were going to tour Canada again, America, and possibly go to Japan and Australia. And that way, that's all on hold, clearly, because we're not sure what's happening, because she plays theatres and arenas, so Lorena in an arena works quite well. We don't know what's happening there, let alone a jazz club or a pub. So yeah, I'm basically online teaching, online sort of clinics. I'm getting into that, sort of a payable thing, if people want to come in and maybe donate. I'm thinking about that. I mean, I haven't done those yet. The online lessons I'm doing. The remotes I'm carrying on with. I'm in the studio tomorrow with a band. I'm actually doing remotes at the moment for a band called St. Mars, who are a really good band. And the last single, Help, not to be confused with the Beatles song, is really good. So check them out on YouTube and what have you. And also Ed Sheeran's cousin, a guy called Jethro Sheeran, I'm doing some stuff with as well, all through remotes. And then this other thing that's just, I can't really say much about it, but it's just started. I said earlier about these people that have contacted me that I've never contacted before. They've got this little pool of musicians that are remoting and sharing stuff. So that's going to be really good. So I've literally been sat here, as I said, with my son here playing his Star Wars stuff, thinking, right, I've got to think of a different plan of attack, because, next year is going to be very different. So I need to think how I, set my ducks up in a row, as they say, and all those sort of corny things. So the thing is, the email is pinging, my messenger is pinging, and my phone is pinging. So that's, to me, and any musician, as you will both know, that's the thing. When everything goes silent and a little bit dead, you think, oh, something's wrong. So when I'm here, part of that whole thing I said earlier, emailing, keep in touch, keeping the plate spinning, is to let people know that I'm still up for work. I can get to a studio just down the road. I can do remotes. It's not, I couldn't a few months ago, obviously, because everything was like, can't go to the house. But now things are not completely okay. I know people are still it is. But I can still go there on my own with all my gear, you know, and I can set up and the mics are there and I can get things done. And if the owner comes in, the studio's big enough, we can social distance, you know. And tomorrow we've got a plan of where we're all going to be. It's only 3 people, but we're all going to be apart. And I might even stay downstairs the whole time, you know, so whatever, you know. So thankfully things are happening. And as I say, mentally, I'm getting my head around that. Because I was sort of crying in my beer, like, the tour's not happening next year, possibly, and there's all this, I'm losing. And of course, I was home this year, as I said already, I knew that. So I've got theatre stuff sorted out and more sort of smaller jazz gigs and different things. So diary has just been scratched out. And all that was money coming in and stuff. And so that was doing my head in for a while. But now I'm on the other side of it and I'm trying to be more positive and trying to think, right, now this is clearly the ballpark for a while. How are we going to play on this? Rather than thinking, oh, you kind of got to be in it to win it. As I say, I've been talking to drummers who've been messaging me, a lot of younger drummers saying, what am I going to do? It's my first year of being a pro. I've just left music uni. You know, I'm just trying to talk to them about this stuff because it is quite important. The mental health issue is huge for everybody. So yeah, thankfully I've got loads of good stuff coming and I love remoting. It's a bit weird because you're on your Jack Jones, but in a way it's, you get lost in the music a bit more when it's just you. And you've got to do it all yourself, your interface, your laptop, you've got to do all the mics and everything. It's a lot of work, but yeah, there's something good come from this because my sound's getting better. Because there's always someone does it for me, which sounds terrible. Yeah. It's like when you go to a studio, it's all done for you. And so now it's just like, yeah, I've got to do it on my own, get off my arse and do it. So it's all good.
Is there anything from a musical perspective you'd still like to achieve or you feel is still unfulfilled?
Again, we had one of these chats on the PDC thing a little while ago, and I think if you ever think you've arrived somewhere, you probably should just hang your sticks up and call it a day, really. So yeah, I'm still looking for stuff. Years ago, it would have been to sell a record, and then we did that, and then to sell a multi-platinum record, done that. Grammy, done that. You know, it's like it just. And at the time, you think, yes. I remember when she won the Grammy, I was in there, sat down on the chair. Everyone else was in bed because it was in America, Brazil, or wherever it was being broadcast from. And it was like 1 minute I was on Facebook saying, oh, this artist I work with is up for the Grammy. And she was first up. Next minute I was going, oh, she won. We won. You know, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning here, but no one cares, you know. The milkman doesn't care, the postman doesn't care. You go down a pub and you think, oh, I just won a Grammy. People go, yeah, whatever, there's your pint, you know.
Yeah.
And, that's kind of good. It's very grounding.
Well, what was that in the local raffle?
Grammy. Your granny won something. So all of those are good things, but of course they don't really change anything. They do on your CV, of course, but you know they don't change your life dramatically. I haven't suddenly got a Learjet parked up outside or anything. I guess if I'm looking at clubs, theatres, arenas, stadiums, there you go. That's a very obvious ego trip. To do a stadium would be wonderful. I've done big crowds at festivals, but never a stadium that's been like, right, all these people are for us in this zone right now. They're part of, they could be come to see Morrissey or whoever else was on the bill or Beck. You know, when I've done these things, it's all been with someone else, you know, so we're all in there together. But yeah, that would be good. But as I say, they sound really egotistical when I say them like that. I think, you know, the boring answer is like, to be honest with you, I'm just really happy to still be doing it and at a certain level and enjoying it and still every year pushing myself forward a little bit because, you know, the young kid in Corsham at 9 years of age watching Blondie or that Frank Sinatra concert was dreaming of some of this stuff. And again, this is part of this mental thing when I was depressing and my whole life's ruined. It's, you know, everything's going to stop. Actually taking stock. And then on Facebook recently, I've been posting albums. I played on this 8 years ago with Simple Minds. That was one I did yesterday. Yeah. And I thought, I love Simple Minds, and I played with them. Shut up, Robert. That alone in your little life is amazing. So some people sat at home, and they're drummers. They'd give their left leg to do that. And there's other artists as well, like Hugh Cornwell and other people who said when I posted that album, like, oh, you work with Hugh. And I was like, so, you know, it's sort of leveling me out to say, hey, anything that comes along is a bonus. And I'm enjoying it, and I'm just going with it. One thing that disappoints me a little bit is that when you make these records and they do sell well and they do good things, you don't always get, and again, it seems like quite sad, but I'd love to turn my laptop around and say, look, over there is that platinum record up on the wall or whatever. It's really hard as the session man to get that far. I mean, we've all got to pay for them. It's usually about 300 quid or something, which is fine. But with that Laura Pausini singer, our first album we did was double platinum. Then the last one we did was triple platinum. Then she won the Grammy. It would just be really nice to be able to just pay for that disc and say, Rob Bryan played on tracks on this album. Yeah. But it's really hard, you know, to get that far unless you've got It's really difficult. So that's a disappointing. But yeah, no. As far as my career goes, I just wanted to keep going and keep moving forward. I love the education side of it as well. And some people do clinics just for the money and just to do it. I actually love it. I really love passing on the information. I used to love sitting around listening to the old farts talking to me all those years ago. You know, at my dad's gigs. You know, you're a young'un, what you need to do is you need to play less right hand, and your left hand needs to be heavier, or whatever. You know, all that's like whatever. But I just love it. You know, I learned so much. And when you see it in a clinic or masterclass environment, you know, uni, and they're all there keen to learn, and you've been through a few things, you can share it. And I really love that. I see the people at the back, the teachers going, that's enough. But I just want to keep going. I love it. It's like, let's talk about music. Let's get into it. You know, and I've got a funny story, and I've got something I could tell you about this. And yeah, if you can help someone along the way, they're still going to make mistakes. But if you can help somebody along the way, it's a good thing.
So how can people follow you and find out more about your career and the artists you've worked with over the years?
Well, I've got all the obvious things. I've got my website, www.robbryan.co.uk, and I've got my Facebook and my Instagram, Rob Bryan Drummer, and, you know, they're very boring titles for all of my you'll find them. Put in Rob Bryan and Drummer Drums, you'll find them. So, yeah, all the usual places, and YouTube as well. I've got all my content on there as well. So, yeah, easily found out there in the big wide world.
And, of course, on the Palace Drum Chat Show every Saturday.
We're on this Saturday, and we've got Ian Matthews this Saturday from Kasabian, which should be fun. I know Ian from the Bristol days, when we were just all playing around for 24 a jazz gig. And moaning about the parking, and I got my gear in, and I got parked on the road, a bit like you were saying earlier. Exactly the same thing. You know, and I find now when I'm getting gigs, I'm a bit like, you know, the phone goes and say, right, what's the loading like, you know? The other day, Rob, you're getting old. If you start asking what the loading is like, maybe so.
No, you just haven't got the roadies these days. That's what it is.
Oh, darling, yes. I tell you what, one good thing about having roadies, and one thing that all drummers, if you know, there's some drummers watching, be nice to the people that work with you.
Yes.
Don't think for you, with you, because I told the story the other day on the Palace Drum Show, and I won't say who it was, but I'll make it very short because I know we're winding down. But I remember being in a green room once with quite a famous drummer who was quite rude to his drum tech, and we were having a drink and stuff as you do, and he was quite scathing. And then the guy come back and he had another go at him. And at this point, I went out to go to the toilet or something. And he was like, you know, I need to get this thing done. You know, he's like, yeah, I'm on it. You know, I went outside, and he gave you the impression, this roadie, when he was leaving, that he was running. But when he was outside, he just slowed down completely, and he was on his phone. And I looked at him, and I went, I get it. And he went, yeah, it doesn't take me long to work this one out. I went, oh, right, okay. He said, he thinks I'm doing it, but I'm not going to do it. And he'll go up there, and it'll be absolutely fine. It's like the sound man that has the faders, and they go, can you change it? And he just goes, there you go. And people go, brilliant. That's And I learned a few things that day seeing that guy do that. And I just thought, if you act like a bit of a wally, you know, you're not going to get the... So I basically made sure I didn't do that. So when you got your roadies, they're lovely, and I respect them dearly. And I don't even think it was roadies. They're just part of they're just your mates.
Yeah.
But when you got to do it yourself, you even love that. You love them even more. But no. Crew, man. Without crew, we've got nothing. And of course, we're talking about artists being out of work. What about that? You know, all the drivers, you know, all the staff, no matter what it is, even the people who just book the stuff in the offices, you know, just book the stuff. They're all important, you know. So the whole industry is really, we're talking about music, is really suffering. You know, there's a lot of people flailing around, quite worried about what's going on. So
when lockdown's over, folks, make sure to go out, while you're in lockdown, buy some CDs, download some music, buy some merchandise, T-shirts. And when this is all over, go to gigs, support local music, support touring acts, get out there and enjoy music again.
Here, good. Well said, my man. Splendid. That is the thing. Because people always, they were at the start, they're saying, why are you moaning musicians? And it's like, but what are you going to do when you're bored? You're going to put a CD on, you're going to read a book. What are you going to do? Watch a film. That's all the art. So you're saying, artists, you always want more money. And it was like, come on, Then people go, bugger. Yeah, I see your point. But it's very true. Support, because you need them. Everyone needs them.
Absolutely.
People without this stuff in their life, I can't imagine what that'd be like.
Thanks again, Rob, for joining us tonight.
Yeah, absolute pleasure speaking to you. Thanks very much.
Yes.
Likewise, gentlemen. Thank you so much.
Take care, and hope to speak to you again sometime soon.
I hope so.
Take care. Thanks for listening to Desert Planet Discs. If you want to stay part of the action and up to date on all the latest Star Wars news, check out the Fantha Tracks app via the App Store on your mobile device.
You can contact us via email at radio@fanthatracks.com. Comment, like, and share on any of our social media feeds at Fantha Tracks, and be sure to subscribe. Leave a review, preferably a 5-star one, on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcatcher or smart speaker of choice.
Don't forget to head to fanthatracks.com/radio, home of Fantha Tracks Radio, and follow us on our social media feeds at Fantha Tracks, and bookmark fanthatracks.com for all the latest in Star Wars news.